All right, so we got a huge weekend. You guys know a bonus episode of It's Still Real to Me dropped last night, so you got a couple days to get into that before it's dated, and then we got the Royal Rumble, of course, which is tomorrow night. So make sure you go check that out. And joining us here is one of our favorites, of course, Hot 97 every morning up in New York, ESPN 98.7, Michael K. Show, and all over your WWE programming is Peter Rosenberg, who is on his way now to San Antonio. Are you going to be mid-flight here, Peter, and you're saying to yourself, I can't believe this shit. I can't believe I get to that they're paying for me to come over to San Antonio and I'm going to be on Royal Rumble coverage. Like, are you done with that part of this job, or does it still hit you?
No, it still hits me. I get very excited for these ones, and there's this flight is literally all people going to the Royal Rumble.
It's awesome.
Like it's actually interesting. It feels like a Mania flight, because generally leaving New York to go to WrestleMania every year, there's always a good amount of people on the plane. But today, the amount of people that I see going to San Antonio on this Friday for the Rumble, it just tells me that this year's got a little extra juice. And yeah, I'm geeked to get to have a front row seat.
It does feel like this year has extra juice to it. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's because Triple H is in charge. Maybe it's because you got the bloodline. Maybe it's because there's so many great stories. I feel pro wrestling in general, but WWE for sure is just so hot right now, Peter.
Yeah, no, it's a good time. There's no doubt about it. I mean, there's been a lot of noise in general that's brought a lot of eyeballs. You saw the numbers for Raw 30 were great. And the bloodline, I mean, they finally now in the bloodline have a story that everyone can kind of hold on to and really be excited about week to week. So yeah, I mean, I think the Triple H part's a piece of it. I think the noise that came along with that is a piece of it, like sort of the excitement. I think having competition from AEW and the development of MJF is partly responsible for that. Just getting more eyeballs into the business in general. I always think competition's better for business. So, yeah, there's no doubt this is a really, really cool time. I'm psyched to see. I think this Mania season will be one of the best we've had in a very long time.
What's your weekend like? So you're going to get to San Antonio in a few hours. What do you got going on over the next 2 days?
I am going to get to San Antonio, check in, and then you'll understand this. Try to figure out how to make sure I'm set up to do my radio show in the afternoon. So I got to deal with whatever internet situations I have. Settle in, do the K show, talk about the NFL playoffs for a few hours. Pretend I care about that this weekend till 6:30, and then after that, meet up with people. I didn't really even realize how many people were going to be around. But like I said, it's like a Mania weekend. So everybody I know who's sort of in media is going to be there as well. Which, like generally when I travel month to month for pay-per-views, when I get to a city, no one's there. It's not like I know tons of people around. Whereas this time it's like, I don't know, there's stuff every night. I think Undertaker has his live show tonight. So yeah, I don't know. I'll go mess around with wrestling nerds, hang out, get a bite to eat, hopefully some Mexican food of some sort, and then wake up tomorrow and get to the building.
Now, does the K show, like, do they bust on you today where you're out there with the fake wrestling, or are they cool with it all?
No, I mean we have a good amount of guests who come on the show. They're super supportive. Obviously, I mean, my co-host is Don LaGreca, whose brother is Dave LaGreca, who makes his entire living talking
about pro wrestling.
Exactly. So yeah, I'm in a pretty safe space as a wrestling fan.
Where will you watch the show?
I will watch at least some of it in the building, and then I'll sort of play it by ear. Depending how the night goes, I'll either stay out there all night and just kind of be out on the floor watching and taking it all in, or if they're like, so I've told on my podcast. I don't know if I told it to you, but I've said it before. For last year's Rumble, I stayed for the women's match, I believe. And then for the men's match, me and Booker went to Roots Chris and had the iPad on the table. And that was pretty great too. So if opportunities like that come up where I get to watch it with a legend and learn a little bit, I'm fine. I don't need to be in the building. I'm fine to just take that experience in somewhere else. But this year it's feeling like with the Alamo Dome, how big it's going to feel in there, feeling like I probably will just end up in the building.
Now, you're obviously a huge fan, but you're also working. Is it a little bit like no cheering in the press box?
For me, it is. I mean, I'm not I don't know. There's, the wrestling business is one where you kind of have to act like you're supposed to be there
Right.
to some extent. If I go to a show and I'm not working at all, like I just go to the Garden, I'm very actively cheering. But when I'm there specifically for work, I'm wearing a suit. I think, yeah, I'm playing the part through and through. I'm not going to be like booing and cheering. It just, if nothing else, I feel like I'd be setting myself up to get made fun of later.
I did my top five Royal Rumble moments on this most recent episode of It's Still Real to Me. What is your all-time favorite Royal Rumble moment?
I mean, listen, obviously Flair winning
That's number one
is
for me.
yeah, I mean, and that's a totally reasonable one. In the modern era, I really enjoyed Mysterio winning the Rumble after Eddie died. I
I
thought
think I
that
was
was
down here, right? I think I was here in Miami.
yeah, that was a pretty special one. Let's see. I'm trying to think of what entrance. I mean, I'll tell you what, man. 2016, AJ Styles showing up, and in recent times, that was a pretty cool one. I'll tell you what, for me personally, just because he's a good friend of mine, and I never thought I'd see him again. 3 years ago, MVP walking through that curtain. Who knew? We didn't. That's what's so great about the Rumble. MVP walks through the curtain 3 years ago in the second to last pay-per-view before the pandemic.
Yeah.
And you have no idea that he's going to end up being a fixture of programming now for the next 3 years. And that's what's so cool about the Rumble. And by the way, they didn't know. Like nobody knew when they booked MVP for the Royal Rumble that this was going to be the beginning of him being a part of TV again. It was come out and do the Rumble, and they utilized him on Raw the next day. And then it's like, hey, hang out, let's see what happens next week. And now he's really sort of established himself. I mean, I think there's so much more he can do. I think MVP could truly be like, I want the Hurt Business back together. I
Yeah.
want MVP with a mic in his hand every week. And so yeah, you just never know what's going to come from the Rumble moments.
Do you have a pick for the men's and the women's?
I mean, yeah, I'm not going to break any major ground here. I'm going to pick Cody Rhodes to win the men's, and I'm going to pick Rhea Ripley to win the women's.
You're going chalk.
I'm really going chalk. I just don't. I will love to be wrong, and I don't care. But to me, it's just Rhea's so on fire right now. It's not the direction they have to go. I like the idea of Rhea next year competing for like the Intercontinental Championship, sort of having a China trajectory or the U.S. Championship. I'm down with all that too. But she's also so over right now that I could see a world in which they just go, let's get her in there. I love the idea of she wins, she calls out Bianca and Charlotte, triple threat match, all the titles, WrestleMania.
Wow.
I think that would be pretty great.
Now, speaking of Rhea, are you going to be careful when you get to the arena tomorrow that you don't look Dominic in the eye? You don't want any trouble,
No, he's obviously become a very dangerous guy, and has a lot of real life street life experience. So
it's so good.
It's so good. Like it's little things like that. They're just adding a little twist of comedy. They're just hitting certain notes that I really enjoy.
It's so good. Lastly here, Peter, because Peter's on his way to San Antonio. So, Hip Hop, Hot 97, Sports 98.7, all over WWE programming. I don't want you to rank the three, hip hop, wrestling, sports, but I want you to give me a pie chart of your love, okay? So give me a percentage of the three that take up that pie chart. Go ahead.
I would say 40 hip hop, 30 sports and wrestling.
Okay.
Each.
Okay, that's pretty close.
Yeah, I mean, I think that 10% that 10% difference shows something important.
Mm-hmm.
But I do spend a lot of time on the other ones.
That's
and I'll
good
say
stuff.
this: I mean, they all occupy a lot of space in my heart, though, for sure.
Yo, you're gonna have an awesome weekend. I can't wait for. And by the way, I feel like you broke the news because it got picked up by some other publications the last time you were on my show, and I asked you about how let's get some more Saturday night premium live events, and that's the way we're going now. So that's an excellent job out of you.
And honestly, that was really that was not a get. That was just hunch. Like it was just reading the room. And oh my God, to me, it's so much better. Like I'll be home Sunday to watch football. It's just like the whole thing is better. Saturday night's the more exciting night.
Yep.
It makes more sense.
Yep. Great job, Peter. Thanks a lot, man. Have a lot of fun. Be safe.
Jonathan, always, bro. Take care of yourself.